Opening cargo bay shields, Sarah announced, her heart thundering in her chest. Initiating controlled atmospheric exchange. The Void Wraith seemed to sense their intention. Its writhing form condensed, becoming more concentrated as it drifted toward the open bay. Sarah had studied hundreds of first contact scenarios, but nothing compared to this moment. The creature entered the containment field, its dark energy rippling against the modified shields. Sarah activated the specialized sensors she'd prepared, gathering unprecedented data about the entity's composition. Remarkable, she breathed, watching the readings flood her screens. It's not just dark energy, there's a complex neural network throughout its structure. It's sentient in ways we never imagined. The Void Wraith's movements became calmer within the containment field, its energy patterns stabilizing. Sarah began the delicate process of analyzing its wound, using carefully calibrated energy pulses to assess the damage. Dr. Chin, Captain Hayes' voice was tense. The Galactic Assembly will have our heads for this. Harboring a Void Wraith violates every security protocol in the book. Then we don't tell them, Sarah replied, her eyes fixed on her work. Not until we understand what we're dealing with. Captain, look at these neural patterns. They're incredibly sophisticated. This isn't some mindless destroyer, it's an intelligent being. As if in response to her words, the Void Wraith's energy field pulsed softly, creating patterns that reminded Sarah of bioluminescent creatures in Earth's deep oceans. She made notes rapidly, documenting every observation. One condition, Hayes said finally. The moment we dock at any station, this stays completely under wraps. We need time to understand what we're dealing with before the assembly gets involved. Sarah nodded, relief flooding through her. As she continued her work, she couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would change everything. Humanity had always been known for doing the impossible, for reaching out when others pulled back. As the hour drew to a close, Sarah watched the Void Wraith's wound slowly begin to heal under her carefully calculated energy treatments. The creature's movements had become almost graceful, its dark energy flowing in patterns that seemed almost grateful. What have we gotten ourselves into, Doctor? Hayes asked quietly. Sarah smiled, watching as the Void Wraith created complex geometric patterns in its energy field. We've taken the first step toward understanding the universe's greatest mystery, Captain. And something tells me this is just the beginning. The stellar horizon continued its journey through space, now carrying a secret that would soon shake the foundations of galactic society. In the cargo bay, beneath layers of modified shields, an impossible friendship was beginning to form, one that would challenge everything the galaxy thought it knew about humans, Void Wraiths, and the nature of understanding itself. 3 weeks had passed since the stellar horizon took in its unusual passenger. Dr. Sarah Chin sat cross-legged before the containment field, watching as the Void Wraith, whom she'd begun calling Nova, created intricate patterns in its dark energy field. "You're trying to tell me something, aren't you?" she murmured, recording the recurring geometric shapes in her tablet. The creature's neural patterns had become increasingly complex, suggesting attempts at communication. The ship's intercom crackled. "Dr. Chen to the bridge, immediately." Captain Hayes' voice carried an edge she'd never heard before. When Sarah arrived, the bridge crew's faces were grim. On the main screen, a message from the Galactic Assembly flashed in urgent red. "Emergency inspection. All vessels in Sector 7. "They know," Lieutenant Rodriguez said quietly. Someone talked. Captain Hayes turned to Sarah. "They're sending the enforcement division. These aren't bureaucrats, Doctor. They're trained to handle cosmic threats." He spat the last words. "We have 2 hours." Sarah's mind raced. "We can't let them find Nova. You've seen the progress we've made. The patterns, the attempts at communication. This could revolutionize our understanding of cosmic entities. And what do you suggest? Hiding a Void Wraith isn't exactly like smuggling contraband." Hayes ran a hand through his gray hair. "The assembly sensors will detect the dark energy signature the moment they dock." Sarah straightened. "Unless we mask it. Lieutenant Rodriguez, remember that anomaly we encountered last month? The one that scrambled our dark energy sensors?" Rodriguez's eyes widened. The quantum field distortion? But generating something like that artificially would require every bit of power we can spare, Sarah finished. It's risky, but it's our only chance. Hayes studied her for a long moment. The entire crew would have to be on board. If anyone speaks to the assembly, then let them decide. Sarah faced the bridge crew. What we've discovered, what we're learning from Nova, it's bigger than protocols. This could be the key to understanding beings we've feared for millennia. But I won't force anyone to take this risk. One by one, the crew members exchanged looks. Rodriguez spoke first. I've seen the data, Captain. Dr. Chin is right. This could change everything. The next hour was a blur of activity. The crew worked frantically to modify the ship's power systems, rerouting energy to create a massive quantum field distortion. Sarah returned to the cargo bay, where Nova seemed to sense the tension. We're trying to protect you, she told the creature, watching as its dark energy swirled in response. I just hope you understand that. The Enforcement Division's ship dropped out of hyperspace right on schedule. Sarah watched from the observation deck as the sleek, black vessel approached. Its hull bristled with weapons designed specifically to combat cosmic entities. Quantum field active, Rodriguez reported, his voice strained. Power systems at maximum capacity. The inspection team boarded, 4 stern-faced officials in black uniforms. Their leader, Commander Vex, had reptilian features and cold, calculating eyes. Captain Hayes, he said, his voice like gravel. We've received reports of unusual energy signatures from your vessel. You understand the protocol for suspected Void Wraith contact? Of course, Commander. Hayes's poker face was impeccable. You'll find everything in order. Dr. Chin, our xenobiologist, can show you our recent research data. Sarah led them through the ship, her heart pounding as they passed near the cargo bay. The quantum field held, but the strain on the ship systems was evident in the flickering lights and humming conduits. Commander Vex paused, his forked tongue flicking out. Your power systems seem to be running hot, Doctor. We're conducting several high-energy experiments, Sarah replied smoothly. Standard xenobiology research. The inspection dragged on for hours. Every minute stressed the overtaxed systems further. Finally, Vex seemed satisfied, though his suspicious gaze lingered on Sarah. Everything appears to be in order, he admitted reluctantly. But we'll be monitoring this sector closely. Any unusual readings will be reported immediately, Hayes assured him. The moment the Enforcement Division's ship disappeared into hyperspace, the crew exhaled collectively. Sarah rushed to the cargo bay, where Nova's dark energy patterns showed signs of agitation. It's okay, she soothed, placing a hand against the containment field. We protected you. And we'll keep protecting you. But as she studied Nova's increasingly complex attempts at communication, Sarah knew they were running out of time. They needed to prove to the galaxy that everything they thought they knew about Void Wraiths was wrong. And to do that, they needed to understand exactly what Nova was trying to tell them. Captain, she called over the comm, I need every linguistic expert and pattern recognition program we have. Nova's not just communicating, it's trying to warn us about something. And I think we need to figure out what it is before the assembly comes back. In the containment field, Nova's dark energy swirled and urgent, repeating patterns, like a message written in a language they were only beginning to understand. The race to decode it had begun, and the stakes were higher than anyone could imagine. This is either brilliance or madness, Lieutenant Rodriguez said, watching as Sarah Chen calibrated the experimental neural interface. Probably both. The makeshift laboratory adjacent to the cargo bay had become a maze of equipment over the past week. After endless hours analyzing Nova's communication patterns, Sarah had proposed something unprecedented, a direct neural connection between human and Void Wraith consciousness. Every pattern we've decoded suggests Nova is trying to share complex information, Sarah explained, adjusting the interface's quantum resonators. But it's like trying to understand a symphony by looking at the sound waves. We need to experience it directly. Captain Hayes stood in the doorway, his expression troubled. The assembly's patrols have increased. We've had 3 random inspections this week alone. If they discover what we're attempting, then we need to succeed before they do. Sarah finished the calibrations and turned to face them. I've studied Nova's neural patterns for weeks. The complexity, the recursion, it's not just communication, it's a form of consciousness we've never encountered before. The neural interface was a marvel of improvised engineering. Sarah had modified standard medical equipment with quantum sensors and dark energy modulators. In theory, it would translate Nova's energy patterns into signals her human brain could process. You understand the risks? Hayes asked quietly. No one has ever attempted to connect with a void wraith's consciousness. The physical effects alone. Sarah nodded. I understand. But Nova's been trying to tell us something important enough to risk communication with beings it's been conditioned to fear. We owe it the same courage. The preparation took hours. Medical monitors were attached, emergency protocols were established, and the crew watched with a mixture of fear and anticipation as Sarah took her position before the containment field. Neural interface online, Rodriguez reported. Quantum field stabilizing, dark energy patterns aligning. Sarah took a deep breath and activated the interface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the world exploded into consciousness. It was like diving into an ocean of pure thought. Colors that had no names, concepts that human language couldn't express, memories that spanned eons, all crashed through her mind in a tsunami of awareness. Sarah gasped, her body arching as her consciousness expanded beyond its normal boundaries. Through the overwhelming flood of sensation, she felt Nova's presence, ancient, vast, and incredibly gentle. The void wraith's consciousness enveloped hers like a protective embrace, helping her navigate the overwhelming stream of information. They're achieving stability, she heard Rodriguez say distantly. Neural patterns synchronizing. And then she understood. The images and concepts flowing through her mind weren't random, they were a warning. Nova showed her visions of the galaxy's core, where something dark and terrible was stirring. A cosmic anomaly, far more dangerous than any void wraith, was growing stronger. The void wraiths weren't destroyers, they were guardians. For millennia, they had worked to contain these anomalies, preventing them from consuming entire star systems. But now, one was growing too powerful to contain. Sarah saw civilizations falling, worlds being consumed, the very fabric of space-time unraveling. But she also saw hope, a solution that required something unprecedented, cooperation between void wraiths and the galaxy's other species. With tremendous effort, Sarah began to pull back from the neural connection. Her consciousness contracted, returning to its normal boundaries. As the interface powered down, she slumped forward, exhausted but triumphant. Dr. Chin. Multiple voices called out in concern. I'm okay, she managed, her voice hoarse. And I know what Nova's been trying to tell us. She looked up at the containment field, where Nova's dark energy swirled in patterns that now made perfect sense. The galaxy is in danger, and the void wraiths need our help. As Sarah shared what she had learned, the crew's expressions shifted from skepticism to growing concern. The threat Nova had revealed was beyond anything they had imagined, but so was the potential for cooperation. We need to take this to the Assembly, Hayes said finally. But they'll never believe us without proof. Sarah turned to Nova, whose energy patterns had aligned perfectly with her own brainwaves. Then we'll give them proof they can't ignore. Nova's not just willing to communicate, it's willing to teach others. We can bridge the gap between our species, but we have to act fast. The stellar horizon hummed around them as plans were made and preparations began. In the containment field, Nova's patterns shifted into what Sarah now recognized as an expression of determination. Together, they had achieved something unprecedented. Now they had to convince a galaxy blinded by fear to see the truth before it was too late. The Galactic Assembly's emergency session chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 1,000 worlds shouted over each other as the holographic display showed the growing anomaly at the galaxy's core. Dark tendrils of energy reached out like hungry fingers, consuming everything in their path. Sarah Chen stood at the center of the chamber, Nova's containment field hovering beside her. The sight of a void wraith in the assembly had caused initial panic, but the creature's calm demeanor and Sarah's neural connection had kept the situation from devolving into violence. The evidence is undeniable. Sarah projected her voice over the din, the quantum readings, the gravimetric distortions. Everything confirms what Nova has shown us. This anomaly isn't just a cosmic phenomenon, it's an ancient force that the Void Wraiths have been containing for millennia. High Counselor Zira, a crystalline being from the Andromeda Arm, chimed with skepticism. You expect us to believe that these destroyers, these cosmic terrors, are actually our protectors? That we should trust them. Sarah touched the neural interface at her temple, and Nova's energy patterns synchronized with her brainwaves. Together, they projected their shared memories onto the chamber's holographic systems. The assembly fell silent as they witnessed the truth through Nova's ancient memories. They saw the birth of the anomalies, tears in space-time that threatened to devour everything. They watched as the Void Wraiths emerged, beings of pure energy capable of containing these cosmic cancers. For eons, they had sacrificed themselves to keep the galaxy safe, their fearsome reputation a tragic misunderstanding. The containment is failing, Sarah explained as the memories faded. The anomaly at the core has grown too powerful for the Void Wraiths to handle alone. But together, with our technology and their power, we might have a chance. Commander Vex, who had pursued the stellar horizon relentlessly, stepped forward. And what exactly are you proposing, Dr. Chen? Sarah activated another hologram, this one showing schematics developed by the Stellar Horizons engineering team. A neural network on a galactic scale. Using modified versions of the interface I developed, we can create a bridge between Void Wraith energy and our technology. A containment field powerful enough to neutralize the anomaly. The chamber erupted in discussion. The plan was audacious, requiring unprecedented cooperation between species that had been enemies for countless generations. But the alternative, the destruction of everything they knew, was unthinkable. The resources required. High Counselor Zira began. Are nothing compared to what we'll lose if we do nothing, Captain Hayes interrupted, stepping up beside Sarah. We've seen the projections. The anomaly will reach the core worlds within months. No evacuation plan could save everyone. Nova's energy patterns shifted, creating complex geometrical shapes that Sarah had learned to interpret. Through their neural link, she felt the creature's determination and hope, emotions that challenged everything the galaxy thought they knew about Void Wraiths. Nova's people are ready, Sarah translated. They've already begun gathering near the core, containing the anomaly as best they can. But they need our help. Our technology. Our trust. The assembly deliberated for hours. Sarah and Nova remained connected, their shared consciousness a living proof of what cooperation could achieve. Finally, High Counselor Zira spoke for the gathered representatives. The assembly has reached a decision, the crystalline being announced. We will proceed with Dr. Chen's plan. All worlds will contribute resources and technology. The evacuation of threatened systems will begin immediately. Sarah felt Nova's relief mirror her own. But there was no time to celebrate. The anomaly was growing stronger by the hour, and they had a galaxy-spanning neural network to build. As the assembly dispersed to begin preparations, Commander Vex approached Sarah. I was wrong about you, Doctor. And about them? He nodded toward Nova. I hope we have time to correct our mistakes. Sarah watched the holographic display of the growing anomaly, its dark tendrils reaching further into the galaxy with each passing moment. Through her neural link with Nova, she felt both the enormity of the challenge ahead and the determination to face it. We'll make time, she said firmly. Because for the first time in galactic history, we're all fighting on the same side. The Stellar Horizons crew was already mobilizing, ready to play their part in the greatest cooperative effort the galaxy had ever seen. As Sarah and Nova prepared to join them, she realized that their impossible friendship had become something even more important, a bridge between two species that might just save everything they held dear. The void between stars had never seemed so crowded. Thousands of ships from every spacefaring civilization hung in formation around the galaxy's core, their hulls modified with dark energy receptors. At their center, countless void wraiths gathered, their ethereal forms creating a spectacular display of cosmic power. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Stellar Horizon, now the command center for the most ambitious project in galactic history. The neural network interface covered half her face, connecting her not just to Nova, but to the entire assembled fleet of void wraiths. Final systems check, Lieutenant Rodriguez called out. All ships reporting ready. Dark energy synchronization at optimal levels. Through the neural link, Sarah felt the collective consciousness of the void wraiths, a vast ocean of ancient wisdom and power. Nova's familiar presence stood out among them, a steady anchor in the overwhelming flood of awareness. The anomaly has breached the inner containment zone, Captain Hayes reported grimly. We're recording unprecedented levels of space-time distortion. Sarah watched as the massive Terran reality pulsed with malevolent energy. Through her connection with the void wraiths, she could sense its true nature, a cancer in the fabric of space itself, growing and consuming everything in its path. All ships, prepare for neural sync, Sarah commanded. Remember your training. Don't fight the connection. Let it flow through you. She had spent weeks teaching other species how to accept the void wraith's consciousness without being overwhelmed. Now everything depended on that training. The neural network activated. Across thousands of ships, crews linked their minds with their void wraith partners. Sarah felt each connection form, adding to the vast web of consciousness spreading across space. It was beautiful and terrifying, thousands of minds working as one. Anomaly is accelerating, Hayes warned. Gravitational shear increasing. Now, Sarah projected the command through the neural network. As one, the assembled void wraiths poured their energy into the fleet's modified systems. Dark energy merged with advanced technology, creating something entirely new. A massive containment field began to form around the anomaly. But the Terran space-time fought back, sending waves of destructive force that threatened to shatter their unity. Sarah felt minds beginning to falter under the strain. Hold together, she broadcast through the network, letting her own determination flow through the connection. We're stronger united than we ever were apart. Nova's energy surged beside her, supporting her as she supported others. Through their deep connection, Sarah understood what needed to be done. It wasn't just about containing the anomaly, they had to heal the damaged space-time itself. Adjust the field harmonics, she commanded. Don't fight the anomaly's energy, redirect it. The void wraiths have been doing this for eons. Let them guide you. The neural network hummed with renewed purpose. Ship crews and void wraiths worked in perfect synchronization, their combined power reaching levels never before achieved. The containment field began to pulse with a rhythmic energy, matching the anomaly's own frequencies. It's working, Rodriguez reported, his voice strained but excited. The anomaly's energy signature is destabilizing. Sarah felt it through the network, the moment when the balance shifted. The anomaly's destructive force began to turn in on itself, contained and redirected by their united effort. But the strain on the neural network was immense. We can't hold this forever, Hayes warned. The systems are reaching critical levels. We don't need forever, Sarah responded, drawing on Nova's ancient knowledge. Just long enough for the cascade effect to begin. Through the massive viewport, they watched as the anomaly's dark tendrils began to retract. The Terran space-time started to close, its energy dispersing harmlessly into the containment field. The combined power of technology and void wraith energy was healing the very fabric of space. The process took hours. Ship's crews and void wraiths maintained their connection despite exhaustion, their shared determination never wavering. Sarah remained at the center of it all, her mind bridging the gap between species that had once been mortal enemies. Finally, where the anomaly had raged, only normal space remained. The containment field collapsed as thousands of minds disconnected from the neural network, exhausted but triumphant. We did it, Sarah whispered, feeling Nova's joy merge with her own. We actually did it. As the fleet began to disperse, messages of celebration flooded the communications channels. Species that had never trusted each other were sharing their relief and triumph. The void wraiths drifted among the ships, no longer feared, but recognized as the guardians they truly were. But Sarah knew this was more than just a victory over a cosmic threat. They had proven something far more important. that the greatest challenges could only be overcome together, that understanding could replace fear, and that the universe held endless possibilities for those brave enough to reach across the void. 1 year after the crisis at the core, the Galactic Assembly Chamber looked very different. Where once there had been rigid separation between species, now representatives mingled freely. Most striking was the presence of void wraiths, their dark energy forms floating serenely among the gathered delegates. Sarah Chen stood at the podium, Nova by her side, addressing the historic session. The neural interface she wore was now smaller, more elegant, one of many innovations born from the cooperation between species. Today marks more than just the anniversary of our victory, Sarah began. It marks the beginning of a new era in galactic history. The Neural Cooperation Initiative has already yielded discoveries beyond our wildest expectations. The holographic displays showed images from across the galaxy, void wraiths helping to stabilize failing stars, their energy working in harmony with advanced technology. Research stations where scientists of all species worked alongside the cosmic entities, learning secrets of the universe that had been hidden for millennia. The neural network we created out of desperation has become a bridge between civilizations, Sarah continued. What we once feared, we now understand. What we once fought, we now embrace. Commander Vex, now Director of Interspecies Relations, stepped forward. The Defense Forces report a 50% decrease in cosmic anomalies since the initiative began. The Void Wraith's knowledge, combined with our technology, has allowed us to detect and neutralize threats before they become critical. Through her neural link with Nova, Sarah felt waves of satisfaction and hope. The Void Wraith's consciousness merged with hers, sharing memories of ancient times when their kind had fought alone against the darkness between stars. But perhaps the most significant change, Sarah said, has been in ourselves. The neural network showed us more than just how to communicate, it showed us how to truly understand each other. The assembly chamber's displays shifted to show the first graduating class of the Cosmic Unity Academy. Young beings from every species, including newly awakened void wraiths, learning to bridge the gaps between their kinds. Each student wore a neural interface designed to facilitate understanding across the species barrier. Captain Hayes, now Admiral Hayes, stood to deliver his report. The Stellar Horizons mission has been replicated across the galaxy. We now have over 1,000 ships crewed by mixed species teams, including void wraith partners. Our exploration capabilities have expanded exponentially. Sarah smiled, remembering the fear and mistrust that had once filled this chamber. A year ago, we faced extinction. We survived not because of superior firepower or advanced technology, but because we learned to trust, to understand, to connect. Nova's energy patterns shifted, creating the complex geometrical patterns that Sarah had first struggled to understand. Now, thanks to the neural interfaces, everyone in the chamber could appreciate the beauty and meaning of the Void Wraith's communication. The galaxy faces new challenges, Sarah acknowledged. But we face them together. Every day, we discover new ways to combine our strengths. New ways to learn from each other. New ways to grow. High Counselor Zira chimed in agreement. The Assembly has unanimously voted to establish permanent neural link stations in all major systems. The age of isolation is over. As the session concluded, Sarah walked through the chamber with Nova drifting beside her. Representatives from across the galaxy stopped to greet them, the human and void wraith who had shown them a new way forward. Did you ever imagine this? Lieutenant Rodriguez, now Captain Rodriguez, asked as he joined them. When you first decided to help Nova? Sarah reached out to touch the containment field that Nova no longer needed but maintained out of courtesy to those still adjusting to void wraith presence. Through their neural link, she felt Nova's response, a complex mixture of joy, pride, and continued determination to protect and serve. I imagined understanding, Sarah replied. I imagined breaking down barriers. But this. She gestured to the chamber, where beings who had once been mortal enemies now worked together in harmony. This is beyond anything I could have dreamed. As they looked out at the galaxy through the chamber's massive viewport, Sarah felt Nova's consciousness merge with hers one more time. Together, They saw not just the present, but the potential future, endless possibilities stretching out before them, a galaxy united not in fear, but in hope. The legacy of their connection, their trust, their willingness to reach across the void would echo through generations to come. In the darkness between stars, light had finally dawned.